What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Geek Pantheon. I am Eric, and today I wanted to show you all what I do to my handouts that I'm giving to my players to really give them an extra pop and make it feel real, make it feel cool. And an example that I have here in my hand tonight is session 1 of my game, and the very first combat encounter that the players are going to be doing is just a fight in a fighting ring. I have a lot of new players, so I want a low stakes combat for them to get acclimated to their characters, make sure they like the spells that they picked if they're a spellcaster, make sure they like the class they picked, just all around. And so I want to give them a chance where there's not a whole lot of stakes and it's not intense, but still feels real in the world. There is stakes, but it's not life or death stakes. So what happens when they complete this combat encounter is they will be licensed adventurers to go out into the wilds of the island Osprata. But I wanted to have a physical thing that I could hand to my players once they were licensed adventurers. So I have adventurers licenses with a little logo for the Adventurers Guild. And on the back, I've got the terms of service of the license and the signature of the head of the Adventurers Guild and a little wax seal thing here. It's not a real wax seal. I just printed it on there. But these were just business cards. I have the packaging right here. I got this at Staples. It's just perforated business cards that you can print on. You can see they're very white. These are not. But I didn't print them with a brown background or anything. I did a technique that some of you may be familiar with, but I'm hoping some of you aren't, so you can gain something from this video. But it's coffee staining. So I took some coffee and I put it in a baking tray and I soaked these for about 5 to 10 minutes. And then I put them in the oven at 200 degrees to dry out. And now they feel that they just have that not printer paper feel to them. They feel like something that an adventurer might have legitimately gotten. If it's an ancient thing, I could, burn the edges, but these are official things that the company is giving to them. So it makes sense that these would be, in a decent state. And there's a little line here, and I'll have the players write their name and the name of their company, the adventuring party, on this, so that if somebody asks for their adventuring license when they're coming back into town, they can flash this and they're good to go. So I have this map that you can see here is the map that they're going to get once they get their adventurer's license. It's okay. We flag dungeons near the city for first timers to go out to once again, get acclimated to the island. We don't want you all just wandering off into the jungle to get eaten by a T-Rex or something. So here's your map for your first dungeon that a more experienced adventuring party has flagged as being near the city. And this is going to do 2 things. One, there's a rival adventuring party that they're going to interact with in this first session that will get a map to a different dungeon, and there will be a pay bonus. They have ensured it is equidistance in terms of mileage. There are multiple ways that the party can get there. I'm not going to get into all that, but I'm going to hand this to them and then hand the other map to the other adventuring party and say, first one back gets a pay bonus of 200 gold pieces. That should be more than enough motivation for first level characters to get out of town and get moving. I don't want them to go talk to every NPC, check out every single shop, all that kind of stuff. I want them to get their license and then get moving. So I want to have this map that I can hand to them. And you can see I printed it with the brown background. It looks pretty good, but the backside is very much printer paper. So I want to coffee stain this so it has a bit different of a paper feel, and also so both sides are the same kind of stained brown parchment-y color. So I'm going to take you all into my kitchen and we're going to get started. Come on. What is up, everybody? We are in the kitchen. We're about to get started on staining the paper and putting it in the oven and all that kind of stuff. Quick note before we get going. This technique works best with black and white images, just black ink. I have found in my experience, if you do anything that involves red ink on your paper, the coffee, something about the acidity in it, I'm not sure the science behind it, just in my experience, red ink does not handle this process well. Blue ink and yellow ink work perfectly fine. Something about red, it just tends to really wash out the red, and up to a certain point will just completely take red out of the equation. You'll see in the finalized map that when I printed it, it was brown, and the land was a much darker shade of brown than the water. But in the final product, the map is not brown at all. In fact, you have a lot of shades of blue and yellows because it takes all of that red out of there. So I'm happy with the end result when I stain stuff like this, but I go into it knowing that that's going to be my result. So if you have something that's really a vibrant red or something like that, don't do this technique because you're going to get a lot of that red taken out of the image. So stick with black and white. You can do blues and yellows as well, but red is going to be affected by the coffee soaking process. So just quick disclaimer, on with the video. Hello, everybody. We are now in my kitchen. I don't know how the audio quality is going to sound. I have my microphone, but kitchen's a lot echoier than the office, and I'm not behind my desk. So anyway, I have my map here that I've shown you all. So I am in my kitchen. I have a cup of coffee that I just brewed that I actually stuck in the freezer because you want the coffee to be at least room temperature. It doesn't need to be cold. So the plan is to take the baking sheet, put my coffee in there, and then set my map in the coffee for about 5 to 10 minutes. Let it soak up the coffee, soak up that color. And there might be some coffee grounds and stuff like that, some particulates. That's going to be good as well. And in fact, if you want it to be really intense, you can get some coffee grounds and sprinkle them in there. And where the coffee grounds settle, you'll get some uneven coloring, some splotches to give it that imperfection that like old-timey parchment had. So anyway, I'm going to get the coffee cold, and then we will get started and I'll show you the process. So away we go. Something else I neglected to mention, the coffee is just about the right temperature. Be sure to get your oven preheating to 200 degrees Fahrenheit because once we're done soaking it, we're gonna pop it in the oven. Once we get all the coffee out of there, you just want the wet sheet of paper on the baking sheet at that point. And basically that's gonna be how you rapidly dry it out to give it kind of that more brittle, parchmenty feel as opposed to printer paper. So be sure to preheat your oven 200 degrees Fahrenheit while you're waiting on the coffee to cool down. Okay, a little bit of a pro tip here. If you take your coffee out of the coffee mug and pour it onto your baking sheet, it's going to cool off a lot quicker as well. I should have mentioned that at the outset because you have a lot more surface area, and yeah, you're just going to get a lot cooler. The coffee is now at the point where I can stick my fingers in it. It's not even a little bit uncomfortable. It's fully room temperature, so we are ready to submerge our map into the coffee. So yeah, we're just going to dunk it in and then press it down to make sure it's all fully submerged. Make sure there's no like air bubbles underneath it, just so we get all the way down. And yeah, now we wait 5 minutes. Let the paper soak up all that coffee, all that color. We don't have a whole lot of particulates in there, which is fine. If I wanted to, I could get some coffee grounds. In fact, that's 1 second. Okay, so I have the grounds from the coffee that I just brewed, and I can just take a little bit, you know, wherever I want. Just, you don't want it uniform, you don't want it consistent. And that'll just give a little bit of texture to the map. So just sprinkle some coffee grounds in there and let those sit also for the 5 to 10 minute window. And I'll be back once we've hit the point where we're ready to get rid of the coffee in here and the coffee grounds and throw it into the oven. Okay, so we've been going for about 10 minutes now, and I'm going to just reach in here and try to get purchase on this thing to pull it up out of the coffee to take a look at it. And see how I'm liking the color. Okay, so yeah, it's got that yellow tint, kind of parchmenty coloring to it, which I like. So I think we're good. So we're going to take this over to the sink, dump the coffee out, dry the baking sheet as much as possible, and then put the paper back on it and stick this in the oven for about 10 minutes. So I will be back to you once we're put it in the oven. Okay, so I have dried out the baking sheet and put the paper back on it. So now we're headed over to the oven, 200 degrees Fahrenheit for about 10 minutes. It says typically when you follow instructions 5 to 10, I have literally never had 5 minutes be long enough. It's always still damp. So I just stick to 10, and then I might even take it up to 15 if I want to give it a really dry, brittle feel. But we're going to start off with 10, and then I'll pull it out and show you all what the results look like, and then make the call of if we want to go to 15 or even 20. Okay, it has been 10 minutes. The timer went off, and now we're out of the oven. And now you can see, I'm going to try to get the camera to focus on the map. what it looks like. Got a good yellow tint all around. Definitely has a very crunchy, like old-timey paper feel. Feels aged, feels older, does not feel like printer paper anymore. But no, I'm super happy with how this turned out. I think my players are really gonna like it. Just because it's something tactile for them to have, to hold, and they can mark on it. They can use it to determine where they want to go in terms of going from the city with the little shield up here to the dungeon down there in the lower left-hand corner. And yeah, I really like this. So give it a shot. Let me know what you think. Let me know how your results go. And thank you all so much for watching. I've been Eric, and I will see you next time.